There is no feeling, in my mind, very few feelings, but that are better than when you go into a space that you've designed and you see the crowd and you see people enjoying it. It's just an amazing feeling. This is going to rival the Sydney Opera House or the Walt Disney Concert Hall or the Performing Arts in Dallas. I mean, these are fantastic places where people go, and you go there to that city, to New York. You go there to that city to see a show. So, the idea is that you will come to Anaheim to see a show, to experience this, and because there will be things here that no one else can do, and do it at a level that no one else does it. What you see around you on the walls pinned up is how we've been evolving the project, looking at the history of Anaheim. We get out the history books, we try and find as much information as we can and start trying to put a story together, some sort of narrative for the project. And that narrative wants to be this guiding principle. What is it that happened here, right? The Spaniards, of course, claimed California. And at some point, they bequeathed some of the lands to soldiers and so forth, and they became the ranchos. It was basically a cattle economy, and most of that cattle was really utilized for sending hides back east. Then there became a big beef market, but at some point, that business died. 1850s, some German settlers decided to come here and plant grapes and make wine. You probably don't know this, but this region was the largest wine making region in the United States. 1880s or so, the grapes die. Where's that image? This is a picture in 1891 in Anaheim Landing. She's not even looking at the camera. She looks like, what the hell am I doing here? Flat land. I could just imagine her thinking like my mother when she first came to this country. I left my home, and here's where I had to come to. There was a struggle. They have to rethink what they're doing, and now they have to create oranges. From viticulture, they went to citriculture. Again, they become one of the largest orange-producing regions, second only to Florida. It isn't until 1955 when the entire landscape has changed, when Disneyland comes in. But again, at a world scale, big wine, big oranges, big entertainment. That period of time before the 50s, it was a rural, agricultural, orange-growing community. We thought that was kind of an important piece. We looked at old photos of the site, and we started thinking about, now that it's a barren parking lot, what if we were to take the asphalt that's there right now and just roll it up like an old carpet and see what's underneath there? We would be unearthing ghosts of orange trees for sure. Imagine that all these trees that were here left these shadows or spirits. Every orange tree is almost a pure circle, yet there's imperfections around it. And then, of course, when you cut down the tree, the rings of the tree are almost perfect little circles. What was interesting to me about the rings on the tree is that they are stories. They're the story of the tree. That's the history of the tree. What is this space about? What is this place going to be about but telling stories? We come there to hear a story. We come there to learn. We come there to share experiences. We are at our best when we go to the theater. We are at our most open-minded. The space and the environment really has to talk about that and be about that. As we tell stories, we get around in a circle, sit around a campfire to tell a story. It's in a circle. Even the first domiciles on Cyprus were circular. Everything seems to be circular. Waves created by energy is radial. Energy waves, sound waves, all that stuff all happens radially. It feels new and ancient at the same time. Once you settle on that geometry, it does take a life of its own. Some of them actually look like the seating arrangement for a theater. It's such a powerful symbol, that circle. This city had done everything at such a high level that, this is also going to be a place at that level where it's worldly. Everyone's going to come to it at some point. So we want some universal concepts. So very interestingly, how something that was part of the site turns into something that we find is very universal to all of us, and finding a way to use that geometry And I said, well, we're just gonna let these rings go and they're gonna dance on the site. And this dance is starting to create the landscape, and this dance is starting to create the forms of the building. And that's what's really making it happen. That sort of form and shape and that silhouette started sort of, creating the silhouettes and the forms and the positive and the negative of our buildings. I went away from the notion that this thing should be one big building with everything in it, a giant, voluminous, unintimate space, because I wanted to create, a civic feel. And therefore we should separate the elements and make each an individual element. The major components are 3 theaters, a concert hall, an opera house, and a black box theater, and a tower, which ultimately is really an observation tower. This tall one here could actually have a totem-like nature to it. It wants to be this thing that you can see from far away. It's lit at the very top. You can go to the top. It appears to be individual buildings, but they're all kind of connected from down below. So they're almost like a root structure. These 3 things ended up that way as a result. A very simple diagram, and we're missing this guy, but if we put another one over here, and put another one over here, and put another one over here, and we got a grove. If you look at this diagram here, it's a performing arts orchard. There you go. Love it, right? We've got a wonderful team that's ready to go. As we go further, we learn more things.
We'd be surprised if we didn't have a displacement air system. That lift is going to want to go down to the lowest occupiable level.
I think we have to not lose these ideas as we go inside the building. As we start thinking about how acoustic panels work, what is the architecture of that so that it relates to everything I'm just talking about?
I love that thing, and I love that it feels articulated within mass. Where you're starting is like already more successful than where I've ended other projects.
Those elements inform the design, and the design informs those elements as well. How you make a rich project is that those weave together.
I think it's a really fun framework already.
Oh, yeah. It's simplified, obviously, for the concept.
Well, sure. How do you get stairs up and how do you get ramps up and how do you do all
You've done
that?
a pretty good job.
What I don't want this thing to end up being is a missed opportunity to really capture something unique and authentic. This is really specific to them. This is based on history and what happened here on this site. This geometry reflects who they are, who they were. And yet, it is so intrinsic to all of us. Anybody from any part of the world will also be able to understand and be fascinated by. We've come up with a geometry and a language that speaks to individuality and community at the same time. There's no mistake why the Olympics symbols are those circles that are interlinked. I mean, that's because that's exactly what that is, right? It's all of humanity and then also the individual.